Podcast, where we dive into the minds of industry leaders who are shaping the future. Today, I'm joined by Adam Schutz, Director of New Business Development at Lachut Electrical Sales. So welcome, Adam.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be your first podcast guest.
Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. So can you start off by telling us how you got into the industry, kind of what started you off at Lachut?
Yeah, I can start at the beginning. So I remember when I was younger, playing sports, my parents were like, hey, you need to go to college. You need to get a good job, right? So they got pushed into that. And I remember my buddies going to trade school, and I remember being plumbers and everything. And when I came out, I had $200,000 debt, right? My friends that came out, they already were buying houses. So I always had in the back of my mind, like, whoa, what are they doing, right? So then when my world got turned upside down when my mom passed, I was like, hey, I'm going to look into that. And I found the electrical industry. I worked for an OEM distributor, ran everything from payroll to inside sales to outside sales, shipping. So I got to learn everything in a quick period. Right here in Rochester, New York, I covered upstate New York, and I covered all of Canada for that company, which was really awesome. And then through there, I met Jason Lachut. We bonded, and then I came on as a manufacturer rep because I wanted to help more people like me starting out in the industry win at sales. That's pretty much my goal every day when I wake up is like, hey, who can I help make some money today?
Gotcha. Just to piggyback on that point there, how important did you find learning all aspects of the business in the electrical industry?
Yes, I think to be successful, starting off as like an inside or a helper or a counter guy or anywhere like that is huge because one, it helps you build relationships because we're in a relationship industry. You learn who's the buyer, you learn who's the engineer, you learn, hey, this is their favorite football team. Hey, here's what they like fishing. So you have that content where you can go to them and always be like, hey, did you catch a pike this weekend? Hey, did you go ice fishing? That's why it's important. Also, there's so many part numbers in our industry. So if you don't know the SKUs, you don't know how you can help, you kind of get lost in the weeds. That's what I always say. You get lost in the noise where, you can see an opportunity and you can really attack the low-hanging fruit. Because that's where it is, right? You got to build up the relationship when someone's lying down where you can go in and really help them. And I think that's what Simcona does a great job of, especially in the OEM world, is they have 300 lines, 400 lines where if someone's lying down, they're able to cross it or they're able to have stock because they're a stocking distributor too.
For listeners who do not know, what does Lachut do in the industry and how do they help distributors like Simcona?
So that was a tough question because I didn't really know what a manufacturer rep did, right, when I came on board. But really what a manufacturer rep is, so I'll take one of our lines, which is AVB, right? They're a $30 billion company, right? They can't have a sales force in every state, every territory, every part of the world. So what they do is they hire a manufacturer rep that now is their sales force and represents them. So we do the engineering, we do the specs, we help them make sales in our territory, which is upstate New York. So what happens is we go out to the OEMs, we say, hey, here's the parts that you need, and then a distributor will get that order because we'd never sell anything direct. It always goes through distributors. And then what we do is we follow that whole part through the process of shipping, making sure it shows up on time, making sure blanket orders are in the right order, making sure if a part shows up broken, we get it, we replace it. We really are an extension of our manufacturers. And we represent, 30 to 40 lines, and we do that for each one. So as a manufacturer rep, your job is to really make sure, the sales are coming in, but we're on 30-day contracts. So at any time you could be fired. So that's my favorite part. Most people don't know that as a manufacturer rep. So it's 30-day contracts. So it's not what you did last month, it's what you did today, right? And that's the key.
Gotcha. You mentioned how important relationships are in this industry. How does Lachut go about developing those relationships?
So, that it starts at ground zero, right? So we go into OEMs, we make cold calls, we go in and see the engineers, and we start showing off the products, right? We'll have our regionals, our product experts come in, we make calls, we find out who the engineer is in charge of each project. We start there. And then also on the distributor level, who we have Courtney Lincoln, she's in charge of distributor relations. She makes sure that we're relevant with them, right? If there's any issues, we make sure we take care of it, right? That's the biggest thing. It's like ease of doing business. Our distributors send in a quote, you want to return that quick so their customer doesn't call 7 other people, right? So it's just ease of doing business is the way we look at it. And Jason Lachut, our owner, we've been here since 1980. He puts a big focus on that.
Very cool. What is it like working with Simcona, and how would you describe that relationship between Lachut and Simcona?
So when I started, Simcona wasn't really. Yes, they sold some of our lines, but we weren't like a full partner. Their top manufacturers were not our lines, right? So we had to build a relationship from square zero, right? And that takes time, and it's showing value. So how I go about it is, helping the outside sales reps, usually the younger guys, Tyler, even Jim, now Pete, helping those guys win on some orders, and then coming in, working with Dawn, working with Mark, working with Tim, showing them, hey, this is what the value we bring, and this is the sales numbers to back it. So our goal is always, hey, help them make money, and then partner up with them, right? And you're in an industry where you're not going after the commercial jobs, right? So my world is OEM, so it works out very well because like your customers are the same people I'm seeing. So I was already going in, so it's easy when you go to a sales rep and you say, hey, what are your accounts? And they say, here it is. Now we're working from both ways, and we meet in the middle.
What do you think sets Simcona apart from other distributors in the electronic industry?
Yeah, so I think Simcona is one of a kind, right? I think you guys are the unicorn of our territory, right? You focus so much on helping the customer, and also you're in some accounts that you've been in for a lifetime, longer than I've been alive. So you guys have that relationship already, but also you do blanket orders, right? You have stock here for your major customers for 12 months already, right? A lot of people are worried about cash flow. Simcona is more worried about the customer, right? For me, I always put the customer first, right? That's the same thing Simcona does. Also, your outside sales reps, they're not just calling on the same people every day. They're going out to see new accounts. You have sales reps in multiple states, right? I know you're located here, but you have guys calling on at least 30 states. And, it's awesome to be a part of new opportunities, being called in, going on calls, and seeing the relationships that have been built over time where they don't call 17 other people, they just call you.
Do you have any examples of how Lachut and Simcona have worked together in the past? Maybe a project?
Yeah, I can go over one today. So you have a new hire named Pete. He came from Hubble. I used to compete against him on Datacom jobs. I wouldn't say compete. I lost a lot to him. But today, Douglas Electric needed a quote done by noon. I worked with Pete on the crosses and the job, and Pete was able to get that back to him and help Douglas, right? So Aaron Horning over there, he does a great job. And now we were able to build that relationship on something that I'm not an expert on. So Datacom is way out of my ballpark, but it's cool to learn from someone that came from, that industry. That's what I love doing, is learning something new every day. So having someone like Pete, a veteran in this industry, teaching me while I'm helping him is the perfect example of why this is an awesome industry.
For sure. And I think the value that it adds, just working between the two companies, you get a different perspective on each sale.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, it wasn't like we were just selling my lines. Like, me and Pete were working on, there was 17 lines on that BOM, and we were able to work and get pricing from multiple reps, multiple manufacturers to get that back in time.
So Simcona's been in the industry for 60 plus years. What do you think separates us from other distributors in the area? What makes us stand out?
I would say Mark Icona. He's the CEO of Jazz Fest, right? I went to Jazz Fest this year, just seeing him in the community, then seeing all the Simcona employers there, seeing that all you guys are knowing everybody. Mark sets the standard, and then Dawn follows it, and then it goes down the chain. But they're not treating the employees as, hey, here's the pyramid, and I'm on top. They almost flip it around, the org chart, where they're at the bottom, and they're propping you guys up. So it's like, that's probably the biggest difference, is when you see the owner of the company out there grinding too. It makes everybody else work harder, from Kathy to Simon to Joe O'Donnell, just meeting everybody and seeing how much they love each other. You don't see that at every other business. You don't see that in the world anymore. So like, when I say it's a unicorn, it's like, this is a great place to come and meet everybody. Everybody's so happy. Even when there's a firestorm going on, there's still smiles, there's still laughs.
Yeah, Mark and Don do a great job setting the example for the rest of us here at Simcona. So they really kind of set the work ethic and we follow along with that.
And look at us today, right? Like you just came in, you're the head of marketing, right, for this whole company, and they're giving you the opportunity to like stretch your wings and fly. Like you're doing a podcast, you're doing LinkedIn, you're doing all these things that other people are not doing, right? So it sets them apart and they trust you like you're an employee that started 60 years ago.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep. That confidence in myself and other employees in the business, that just helps us thrive.
Yep.
I'd love to know if you see any trends or anything in the industry that's kind of changing.
Yeah, I mean, consolidation is the number one thing right now. You see manufacturers buying up other manufacturers. You see rep firms buying up other rep firms. At Lachut, we're pretty much the last independent. So we only represent upstate New York, right? We didn't merge with any other companies. So we get to do it a little bit differently than everybody else. We're not corporate, right? We're privately owned. Jason Lachut owns it. His dad started it. We've been doing the same thing since 1980, right? Some of the lines we have been with us since 1980, right? So we know how it works. We're able to do the little things that gets harder when you have been, just starting out with a new line, or, you don't know the person that's working in the warehouse. We do lunch with those guys, right? So that's the one big thing that I'm seeing is a lot of consolidation. You see other distributors buying up other distributors, right? So the little independents are going away, which Simcona is independently owned, which is a huge advantage, right? Because you can do things what needs to be done for upstate New York, right? You're not doing things based off what's New York City doing or what's being done in California. You're doing what our customers need in upstate New York, and you're making that, the primary goal.
Yep, 100%. So my next question for you, how has your job changed in recent years with shifts in supply chain or product availability?
So for me, personally, it's helped me grow business, right? So when we're talking about supply chain, that's when people go lying down, right? That's when I get a call or someone messages me on LinkedIn, or I get an email or a text like, hey, Schutz, come help me,
Yep,
right?
the panic.
The guy I've been calling for 5 years now finally says, hey, here's your chance, right? We have enough lines where, at least in the OEM world and, in commercial construction, where we'll have stock of something close enough, right? So then you work with the engineers to get it spec'd in. So it has been a huge advantage. There's also times where, say, one of my manufacturers can't ship. Coming from a distributor, I know the 10 other lines that might be able to supply something close. So I'm able to work with sales reps and be like, hey, I can't help you right now with my lines, but there is stock with this over with this company, right? And what that does for me, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to help you get this first order, but you get these other ones on order. They'll be here in 20 weeks, right? And then we'll keep those blankets going, right? Having that flexibility and understanding really has improved what I'm able to do. Also improves what the sales reps can do, right? So a perfect example would be Tyler here, right? We go into accounts and, maybe one of my lines can't supply the first order, or the prototype, but I'll be able to help him spec in what needs to be done and give a second source. So instead of them calling 7 other distributors when you can't ship, they're calling you for the other option.
Yep.
Right. And that's the key to winning nowadays, right? And when we talk about shifts and everything, we're also talking about, protocols, which, AI is a big topic right now, right? So if you can use that, like our younger generation, like you can go to ChatGPT and find crosses, right? Back in the day, you had to pull out catalogs and you're like looking for the numbers and looking for the spec sheet. We have so much information at like the tips of our fingers that we can be so successful. But the key is you got to have the relationship to be able to do that, right? And when they're lying down and when they can't ship and when they're not getting paid by the person that they're building for, that's when you can go in and take over an account.
Yep, for sure. Seems like utilizing those relationships and the knowledge within the industry for crosses, part numbers.
Yep.
It seems like that's pretty important.
No, that is the most important. And that's why distributors, just like you, are the most important part of the whole puzzle, because like I can be as smart as I want to be, or I can do as much work as I can. But if I don't have the relationship there, that order's never going to be placed, even if it's the best choice, right? So having the distributor that you're partnered with, be there, having the relationship, they'll let you know when the issue's happening, right? So if you're not, also on the distributor end, if you're not communicating with your account, you're just taking a check every week, every time they buy a part, you're going to have someone else come in on you, right? So if you're not hungry and you're not going out there and knocking on doors, it's easy to take business.
what do you enjoy the most about being a rep in the industry?
So my favorite thing is when me and a sales rep win new business. That is my favorite thing. We have a new line called Inner Lights. We also have Green Ignite. Shout out to Victor. Simcona partnered up with both those lines. And last week, we got our first 2 orders. Now, I remember I texted Dawn, and I go, Dawn, this is my favorite PO of 2025. It was a $62 PO, right? It had nothing to do with the dollar amount, but it was the first Green Ignite order, right? And the next day, we got the first Inner Lights order. It was $32, right? But you can't do $1 million without having $1 first, right? Yep. And also, it has to get put in the system. Other people have to see you winning. So the best thing is when you take a sales rep and you start boosting their numbers, instantly everybody takes notice, right? I remember calling Simcona, and it was hard to come in here, right? Now I'm on your podcast, the first guest.
Yep.
That's how quick it can change when you take a sales rep, you help them win. It changes everything.
For sure. Again, just building those relationships is key.
Yeah.
So just to piggyback on that point, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in your day-to-day job?
The biggest challenges for me, I would say, is staying focused, right? You get stuck in the weeds, trying to help somebody when you can't, you have to navigate like, hey, where's your time going to be most valuable, right? So there's some times where people send over full BOMs, and just because we answer quickly, they're able to get our part number, our pricing, and then they go to their partners and they say, hey, can you beat this price, right? So that's difficult. Another thing is just, making sure you have work to do, right? Like for me, I have a call setter. They set my calls every week, which has been huge for me because, every week I'm making 15 calls to OEMs, right? So I always have calls going on. Plus we have regionals coming in. So it's just making sure that you're not being a hassle. You're being value.
Yep.
That's huge. Also, like sometimes you're not going to win, right? And as like an athlete, it was tough for me to take that. Like I did everything. I should have won, but this brother's cousin's sister works there, so they got the order, right? I had to take myself away from that and be like, okay, do everything you can to help, because now that I'm farther in the game, those people realize after a while, like, okay, wow, my brother's sister's brother, like, didn't help me at all, right? Yeah. But I never, like, get angry. I just stay focused, try to be happy, try to bring value with laughs. Because at the end of the day, I'm not my job, right? My number one goal is to be the best dad I can be, right? And then everything else is just time, right? So if I'm the best at my job or if I'm the worst at my job, it affects me when I'm at my job. When I'm home, I'm a dad, and that's what really motivates me.
Gotcha. I think striving to be the best dad you can be, that will just improve your work life overall. Gives you the right values and kind of the work ethic that you need.
I mean, also when I'm looking at partnering up with sales reps in different companies, like I look at those values too, right? Like Dawn, she wrote a book, right? And she goes and reads to kids. Like that's one of the things that makes me want to go harder for your company. Right? Those things, like doing the Jazz Fest. I've never been to the Jazz Fest. I went this year. I was like, this is amazing that this guy that owns a distributor also does this, right? Like those things, giving back to the community, making sure that, we're doing our part to help everybody is more important than any sale that I'll ever have.
Where can people go to find more about you or Lachut Electrical Sales?
Yeah, so for me personally, I'm big on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's very important because a lot of engineers, buyers, companies are on there hiring. One thing, like that's what LinkedIn was for. It was to make sure that you can have a job, right? In this industry, in this market, a lot of people are getting laid off or people are changing jobs. I think it's important to help people make sure they have work, right? So I'm always on LinkedIn trying to promote any local company we have. For Lachut, we're LachutElectricalSales.com. But Jason, Courtney, Lena, Lori, Jess Lyons, all these people that you can reach out at any time. You can just email or call. We're always there. We try to turn everything around as quick as possible.
Yep. So I just want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate you being here, and thought we had a really great conversation today.
Yeah, thanks for making me guest number 1.